there actually going to be no October event? Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell. In this show, will Apple just press release the rest of this year's products, my thoughts on the iPhone 14 Pro after a couple of weeks of using it constantly, and will the 15 Pro Max be an Ultra? Plus, a couple more of your questions. I'm iCave Dave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you. So let's talk about this October event, or lack thereof. Now this is a really interesting one. This is coming through a message from Mark Gurman on his newsletter, who is saying that maybe Apple doesn't have interesting enough or enough products left this year to actually have an October event, which seems very strange. We are expecting a refresh to the MacBook Pros, we are expecting a refresh to the Mac Mini, and we're also expecting new iPads Pro with M2 inside. So how is that not enough for an event? I mean, in the past we've had events with almost nothing in them, but I kind of get where he's coming from, because there's not a great deal of kind of new to talk about, although I would have thought that M2 Pro and M2 Max would at least deserve a little bit of stage time in order to talk about what they're doing with it. Admittedly, the iPads Pro, other than gaining MagSafe potentially, does look like they're basically going to be the same as last generation, but plus MagSafe and plus M2 inside. So don't expect for the 11-inch iPad Pro to gain mini LED that seems to be on most other things at this point. Not quite sure why that is. Maybe it's just not enough demand for that, but the 12.9 will certainly keep its mini LED display, and fingers crossed it will actually get a few more dimming zones so you don't get quite such bad blooming, because I believe it's definitely a lot better on the MacBooks Pro than it is on the iPad Pro. In terms of those MacBooks Pro, it's going to be the M2 Pro and M2 Max, which is based still on the 5nm chip process, as I expected. We're almost certain that that's going to be the case. Even Vadim on Twitter is starting to lose faith in life. But the more interesting thing here, I think, is that Mac Mini. So we're going to get an M2 Mac Mini and possibly the M2 Pro version as well. Now, I know we've been told that there's no redesign for this, but we don't know if the internals are going to be changing. They've mentioned that basically they're not expecting, and when I say they, I of course mean Mark Gurman, they're not expecting a redesign to the chassis, which is absolutely fine. And as a few of my viewers have mentioned, a lot of data centers would be a little bit put out if they did change the design. Not that that tends to bother Apple too much. In terms of the actual physical design, I think the aluminium case is going to stay the same. May get anodized in other colors. I would be quite happy with that. But they could completely change that back panel with all the I/O on it. That wouldn't be a difficult thing for them to do at all, because that's a piece of plastic. And that would also potentially mean that they could shift that power supply outside like they've done with the iMacs, and give a bit more space internally for cooling, and for you know, if you wanted to put the beefier chips in there, maybe that's going to help out. Not sure on that. That's not confirmed by any stretch of the imagination. What do you think? Do you think Apple is likely to still do an event for these? I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, I guess there's some production involved in doing these, but the additional coverage that they'll get as a result of it, I would have thought would offset that pretty well in terms of sales. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Right, next we've got a question coming in from Evan Rodgers asking, iCave answers, what changes are in store for the iPad lineup this fall? And this is one of the things that's slightly confusing about that October event. Mark Gurman seems to have forgotten that pretty much every year we get a base iPad bump, and we've been hearing about a redesign for that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. We also normally get an iPad mini. I say normally, we did last year, and it seems like they're trying to get to an annual update cycle for most things, but that might be sticking with the base iPhone model, so that might make sense. However, I do feel like we should get a base model iPad. Other than that, I don't think there's anything massive coming. MagSafe coming to the iPad Pros, but apart from that, not a great deal else. Next up, Team Kinetix asks, iCave answers, how are you finding the iPhone 14 Pro? Reports online that the dynamic island gets in the way of unoptimized apps. Have you found any apps harder to use? And how long do you think it will take before all the third parties consider UI elements around the dynamic island? Yes, there are a handful of apps out there, but this is the problem when you change the physical hardware and the location of what was the notch and move it to the dynamic island, that you don't also tell all of your software developers that they're going to need to move around this thing. So yeah, there's a few things where apps have their own internal notifications. For example, I play the Transformers game from Apple Arcade quite a bit, and that has like an internal like achievement thing that drops down. Now, if it was using the Game Center notifications, I'm sure they would move dynamically around said island, or in fact maybe even be a part of it. I've not checked that yet. But These at the minute scroll down behind the dynamic island and you can't read them. Not that it really matters, because it's just telling you where you are within your 25 games a week or whatever it might be. I don't think it'll take that long. I think probably within the next few months for any active apps at least. But it's not actually made anything harder to use so far for me. Let me know if you found anything different in the comments. But in terms of the iPhone 14 Pro, which is the phone that I've been using as my daily driver since the release day, I am really enjoying the phone. I think it's actually a really nice upgrade. I think the camera quality does look far better. ProMotion, I was always one of these people that said, I don't care about ProMotion. You know, it's not something that bothers me, it's not something I'm excited about, and I was right. I don't even notice it, I'll be honest with you. Even when I go back to using the 12 Pro Max, which I've been using as like my teleprompter today, for example, bit of an upgrade from the 5, which is tiny, so the words have been much bigger and easier for me to read. But yeah, it's been a really nice experience to use. I am using the Pitaka case on it, which is the kind of woven one. We are going to do a full video on that this week, along with a couple of other AirTag products that they've released as well. But yeah, I've got to say, I'm really enjoying the phone. I think it is a decent upgrade from a 12 Pro for me. I wouldn't say if you've got a 13 upgrade to it, because I don't think many people should upgrade every year. The only people that that's really for is YouTubers who do this all the time, I guess. It feels really nice in the hand. I think prefer the Pro size to the Pro Max size now, which confused me. I wasn't sure which way I'd go. But yeah, it's been a fantastic experience so far. Randomness asks, IK answers, will Apple bring the Ultra branding to the MacBook Pros? Maybe make an 18 to 19 inch MacBook Ultra with the M2 or M2 Pro chips. Maybe even M3. Ultra does mean more rugged, high-end, heavier, more powerful. So what do you think, since the iPhones are already going in that direction? I don't think we're going to get MacBook Ultras, I'll be honest with you, because Ultra in the Mac side of things, at least at the moment, is the name of a chip. So otherwise we'd be getting the MacBook Pro Max for the bigger one, and then it would still have either a Pro or a Max inside it, and then the Ultras. Now, Ultra is a chip name as far as Macs go at the minute, but this is the big problem with Apple. I've literally made 2 videos in the past just talking about how Apple could fix their naming. They haven't got in touch yet for me to work on the branding team. But no, I don't think 18 to 19 inch MacBook Pro is coming. As much as you ask for it, Randomness are, they're not going to make one that big. They've already got the biggest possible battery in the 16 inch, and it makes no sense to go any bigger than that, because nobody wants it apart from you. Building a laptop to sell one item is probably not economical. Rodgers asks, if you could take away any non-Apple product and swap in an Apple SoC or software, what would it be? The Pixel 7 Pro looks like it will be a beautiful design. Honestly, I, in almost every case, prefer the design language that Apple has done. The only one that I think would be of interest would be something like the Microsoft Surface Studio, which was their desktop one. I talked about it endlessly before the new iMac was revealed, because I was hoping that you might be able to push it down into like an easel angle and then use Apple Pencil with it. I think that would have been just such a beautiful experience. The way that it works, it's a very, very elegant design. It looks like basically a Mac Mini that sits on your desktop, and then it's got a couple of bars that come up from that to support the display, and you can adjust it to all sorts of levels. They also had that Surface Dial thing where you could change colours on it and all sorts of stuff. There was some really, really innovative stuff with that. Unfortunately, it ran Windows, so that made it a lot less interesting to me. However, the physical hardware design, the idea that you could move that display around a lot, that you could use pencils with it, you could use this Surface Dial, I think was really, really good. I think it was a very elegant looking design as well, which is unusual for Microsoft. I can't explain how confusing it is to have something that I think looks nice that Microsoft has made, but this was good. And that's the end of the questions for today. I just wanted to sort of give you guys a quick update on where I've been. Obviously, I've started a new job about a month ago. The last second half of last week, I was at a conference. They'd hired us out an entire island in Essex, just off the, just in the Thames estuary. Absolutely beautiful. We were having Jack Daniel's barbecues and Chambord lunches and Ford's gin and martinis on the beach. It was absolutely astonishing. And I'll be honest, I was a bit busy. So sorry I didn't get much out last week. This week also a bit bonkers. It's always going to be a bit bonkers now, but I'm going to aim to get 3 videos a week out for for the present time at least. We have got some interesting stuff coming up. I am going to maybe try and do a live stream this week. We might start on Project 91 in terms of actually breaking down the Macintosh Classic 2 and getting Apple Silicon inside it. Because if we're going to be talking about what products I would love to see Apple Silicon inside, I think a 1991 Macintosh Classic is pretty high on my list. Thanks so much for watching. Thank you to the Patreons for being great supporters who don't actually get really any perks at the minute. If you've got an idea for perks for the Patreons, let me know down in the comments, and thank you so much for watching. Want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours? Subscribe and ring the bell.